Hello again, everybody. Mike Zimmer from Zimco Entertainment and Zimco Sports here with a video. Haven't posted in a while. And so a couple people actually had asked what had happened to this week in trivia and the podcast. We haven't done Zim and the Husky Fella, that podcast in quite a while. It's been a busy couple months, obviously, during spring training and season. We're crazy, crazy busy with all that we do at Zimco Entertainment. We have 20 venues these days, so it keeps me busy during the week writing questions, researching, and making sure we get a pretty good product out there. But I have missed doing the podcast, and I was asked by a dear friend, Scotty, up in Massachusetts, one of our followers. What gives? I can't wait for the podcast about the draft. So I thought I would do a Zim and the Husky fella minus the Husky fella, kind of a sports rant, and talk about the NFL draft and a few other things. We also have our Kentucky Derby parties coming up this coming Saturday. We've got two of them. Uh, Cape Cabaret in Cape Coral is our flagship party. This is our second year there. We had about 200 people there last year, and we raised about 2 grand for the Harry Chapin Food Bank. We have a new location this year with Swamp Cat Brewing over in downtown Fort Myers. That one's going to be hosted by our trivia host there, Nikki Rivers, along with Bill Feely and Emily Fisher. They're going to be your hosts there. Wonderful venue, by the way. So check that out. More on that in just a minute. So I was asked about the NFL draft, and I wanted to give my 2 cents because my friend Pam says, "Well, you're one of those people that just has things to say, and you should." Well, I should. I haven't been able to espouse my thoughts in quite a while. In fact, I think the last time we did the This Week in Trivia or a podcast was maybe the first week of March. I don't know. Well, let's start. Something that disgusts me is ESPN and the NFL Network were all over Sugar Sanders, and that's what we're going to talk about. Make no mistake. But it really overshadowed the fact that the number one overall pick, Cam Ward, going to the Titans, it felt like they missed his moment, and I don't know that they gave him his due. Look, I don't know if he's going to be a good quarterback or not. I have a feeling he might be real good. He's got all the arm talent. He can move around. Is he a little small? Is he short? Yes. Is he going to have to find windows to throw through like Drew Brees? Yeah. Does he have some qualities like him? Absolutely. Did he quit on his team in the bowl game? Oh, yeah, he did. But he isn't the flashiest. But he did overcome becoming a zero star. You got to think about this for a second. This guy went from nowheresville. Nobody wanted him in college. A zero-star recruit to being the number one overall draft pick in the NFL draft of the Tennessee Titans, a team that desperately needs a quarterback. He went from Incarnate Word, proved they could do it at the Division One AA level. He went to Washington State, proved that he could do it out in the old Pac-12. And then last year he had a quandary. Do I go to the draft? Probably a fourth, fifth round pick. It's probably a project for somebody at that point in time. Or do I, and he got a last minute call from Miami, and the Canes said, "Come on over and see what you can do." And they had a hell of a run. They were undefeated well into the season. Of course, then they did Miami things, and they lost a couple games, and they lost their relevance. But the fact is, I really think the guy it was disrespectful. And I think this guy has a chip on his shoulder. He could be real damn good. Look, the Clowns lucked out. Let's go to the second pick. The Clowns really lucked out by the Jags being a completely inept franchise. The Husky fellow Brian Barrett and I have a saying that bad franchises make bad decisions. Well, they did. Look, Travis Hunter's real good. I get it. He's a freak. He's a unicorn. Whatever they said about him, it's all true. He's not settled at a position, though. He wants to play both ways. Going and doing that in college is one thing, especially at Colorado where it doesn't matter. And they weren't playing, let's be honest, they weren't playing the Tennessee Titans. They weren't playing the Houston Texans. For him to want to be both, it's going to be tough. And you have a bad franchise that doesn't develop anybody anyway. Is he a wide receiver? Is he a DB? I think he's probably a wide receiver to start because it's probably going to be easier for him to learn. He's a home run hitter in that regard. He's a damn good nickelback on DB, but honestly, I think the price they paid is the problem that I have. It was way too steep. I mean, they mortgaged getting a flashy guy they can market now for, boy, you better be good. And I don't think Jar Jar Banks is a good quarterback at all. I think he's going to prove that they're going to have to make that the next priority, which you could have done with a guy by the name of Shedeur Sanders. But we're not getting there yet. And of course, the question started, when does he come off the board? The Giants had the next pick. Their head coach, Brian Dable, had a terrible meeting with Shedeur Sanders. They threw him scenarios, and apparently he was unprepared for those scenarios. He got pissed off that he didn't expect that, which in turn upset the Giants. So they were like, nope, you're off our board, buddy. And they went and got Abdul Carter from Penn State. Good pick for them. Did they overpay for Jackson Dart by coming back up into the first round? Yes, it was stupid, absolutely stupid. That if you're going to do that, just wait for Dart to fall to you, because I don't know who else was really going to take Jackson Dart. Maybe the Saints, because we're going to get to them. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but absolutely, they got a good player with Abdul Carter. He's going to be on the other end of the line with Thibodeau, who they drafted from Oregon a couple of years ago. The Giants also got a couple of the guys that were okay. Jackson Dart he's got upside, but he's a second or third round quarterback. I don't know. The Patriots were next on the clock. I like what they did with Will Campbell from LSU, despite his little tiny dinosaur arms. This dude can squat 600 and something pounds. That's all fine and dandy, but if you don't have a big wingspan on the corner, I don't know. So he might actually be an interior lineman, but they needed pieces and parts to really help Drake May, and more on that when we get there. So the Browns got the fifth pick from the Jags, and they picked Mason Graham. Dude is solid. He's nasty up front. Basically, his entire you could watch his entire career by watching the Buckeyes Wolverines game from November. He realistically, personally, nearly won that game for Meat Chicken in that game. He's going to be nasty in the vein in the same vein as Tony Saragusa. I don't know if you're out there, if you're an NFL fan, you remember the Goose was just a badass. And I think that's what you get in Mason Graham. I would have been happy if the Bengals had been able to get this guy and him falling a little further, which is why he's getting not a great grade from some of these experts. They're like, well, it's too soon. I beg to differ. Some of the other picks the Browns got, all right, Carson Schwessner from UCLA will be good. Tight end Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green was the best tight end in the draft. And but this is where it got a little crazy. Now, I really like Quinshon Judkins. Great pick for them. More on that when we get to here a little bit. But then they made the decision later in the draft. We're going to make our pick of a quarterback that we can develop. We're going to get one of these young quarterbacks in the draft. And they went and they kind of stunned everybody and got Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Okay, you got your quarterback. A little early, perhaps, but at that point in time, the Browns had a lot of draft picks to play with. They got your guy. So you've got Joe Flacco. You traded for Kenny Pickett. You've got, well, Deshaun Watson isn't going to play. And now you have Dylan Gabriel that you can kind of just learn, get with the program. Before we get too much further about this, I want to get through the rest of the teams that I thought were interesting or those top draft picks went to. So I'm burying the lead here. But of course, the next pick was the Raiders drafting Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. That was a no-brainer. And that's, of course, that's where players with talent go to die and rust on the vine. Jeanty probably will be out of the league in 3 years because the Raiders, or traded because the Raiders don't know what they're doing. I wanted to know what the hell the Bears were doing drafting Michigan's tight end over Penn State's Tyler Warren. Loveland will prove to be a mistake, I think, for them, while the Colts absolutely landed a gem in Warren, and they've proven that they have really good tight ends there over the years. So I'm just saying. Let's see who else is down there. The Bungles, woof, my Bungles. So number 17, they picked Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. A couple years back, he was one of the highest recruits in the country out of high school. And in his time at A&M, he put together next to nothing on tape. 1.5 sacks last year. He's regarded as a project. He had no tape. The guy had no tape. Talented defense. He just got lost. ESPN and NFL Network. I saw that their preview of him, and they had to spotlight him and find him, and it wasn't anything. He's again regarded as a project, someone who has poor football smarts and will require time to develop. What are things the Bengals are bad at and don't have time for? Worse, on NFL radio Thursday night, he admitted that the Bengals never spoke to him at the combine, never came to his workout, never had him in for a visit. He was just as shocked as you and I and everybody else that they called. In fact, he thought 513 was a Pittsburgh area code. Yikes. Let's see. A little further down here. As for the rest of the Bengals draft, the linebacker Demetrius Knight from South Carolina, I actually kind of like. The tackle Dylan Fairchild from Georgia is okay. Barrett Carter from Clemson is an absolute whiff, especially when you could have had Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, who went to the Steelers a couple picks later. And I think Jack Sawyer is a perfect fit for the Steelers. He's probably going to haunt the Bengals franchise for the next decade. Let's see. Another team that has no idea what they're doing in the draft is the Atlanta Falcons. They proved this last year. I didn't hate the move that they made to get linebacker Jalen Walker from Georgia, but to overpay to get back in the first round to take Tennessee's James Pierce when you could have gotten him a lot later, I don't know what you're doing. And I don't know what they're doing with the fact that they drafted Michael Penix last year. Didn't play him until they absolutely had to. You still also have, that big contract on the board with the other quarterback there. I don't know what you're doing, Atlanta. I really don't. Every year, it also amazes me that you have teams that are inept like Cincinnati and Atlanta, and then you have winning franchises like the Philadelphia Eagles. It's amazing to me how every year a defensive standout winds up on the Eagles. Every year. They're really good on that side of the ball anyway. Amazingly, they got another guy who's going to be real good on that. Remember the name Jihad Campbell from Alabama. He's likely a Hall of Famer for the Eagles, and every year they get guys, and that's why they won the Super Bowl last year. So, pick number 40 to the Saints. It's the second round. You don't know what's going to happen with the Saints with their quarterback Derek Carr. They paid way too much money for him last year. It's put them in cap hell. They gambled on maybe this guy coming back to life. He was pretty terrible even when he was healthy. They drafted Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner from Fresno State over the last couple of years. Both of those guys were pretty awful when they had to play last year because Carr is out. Carr may not play this year. This is the spot you could have made a splash. This is the spot where you could have taken a chance on Shedeur Sanders and why not? I mean, instead, they went ahead and drafted Tyler Shuff from Louisville via Oregon, via Baylor, who played college football for 7 years and had trouble staying healthy. In fact, the reason he played 7 years is he got the injury waiver from the NCAA. Look, he was pretty good at Louisville. He can make all the throws, but he can't stay healthy. And all you had was injured quarterbacks last year. Taysom Hill, he got hurt too. He's the other guy that they had to play quarterback down there. Of course, he's not really a quarterback. I don't get it. Now, if you really wanted a shot at drafting Arch Manning, number one next year, Shove can get you there because I don't think he's going to wind up being anything. I really don't. I think it's crazy that they ever let Jameis Winston go. I mean, that's can at the very least make your team interesting while losing and getting better draft picks. Maybe they can get to the Giants and say, "Hey, can we have him back?" I don't know. And then we got to pick number 144. That's in the fifth round. The Browns select Shedeur Sanders. What? I get the supposed value, but you already picked Dylan Gabriel. You traded for Kenny Pickett, reminder. You signed 74-year-old Joe Flacco. What are you exactly doing with your quarterback room? And if you're going to put a pick in on Dylan Gabriel thinking maybe you can get Shedeur later or another quarterback later, why waste the pick on Dylan Gabriel? This is where the Browns do Browns things, right? Now, look, as for Sanders, I'm glad I put zero time into watching ESPN and ABC's coverage. I heard everyone talking about Mel Kiper losing his absolute mind. I heard about all the bites of him, and that every team that was even within a breath of needing a quarterback passed on him. Kiper was losing his mind. And now, look, I used to like Mel Kiper. He's a bit of a unique cat. Uh, all he does is the NFL draft. All he does is draft prep and analysis. He's odd. He's quirky. He's got that Baltimore accent. But it was clear they needed to shut him the hell up and out of there. And it took Reese Davis apparently to kind of shout him down. But all that was ESPN shouting every time he's on there. He sounded like a little kid from the back seat banging on about why you're not stopping at McDonald's incessantly for like every time you pass a McDonald's. I mean, it was just that bad. Instead, ESPN, which is run like most other media outlets and therefore like a reality show, just let him rant and shout, and everybody had to put up with it. And I'm glad I didn't. The NFL Network did a much better job. Let's put it that way. And I watched their draft coverage of it. I listened to NFL radio because I actually had a gig on draft night, but I watched the repeat later on NFL Network late at night as I was cleaning my house. So they had some tension on their set too, by the way. They had a couple disagreements about this as Sanders dropped. Rich Eisen, who's a bit of a lefty, and Joel Klatt, who is a little more conservative, I guess basically had point counterpoint, but it was very much better done. And Eisen started to quibble. Why? What's going on? And basically throwing out the collusion element, the racism element, without actually saying it. Klatt, on the other hand, brought some common sense here. Klatt is a former Colorado quarterback. That's where he played college. He is perhaps the best college analyst and color commentator in the game right now. I really enjoy him. Klatt loved what Sanders put on the field in Colorado, but he spoke the obvious. The interviews with Sanders were poor. He rubbed the NFL front office the wrong way. If you're not going to choose him as a legitimate starter either this year or anointed for next, why would a team want to draft him when they have other needs? The value I get is you're passing on. Look, Shedeur Sanders could prove all these teams to be like, that's the biggest mistake ever made. I get it. But at the same time, with those interviews being so bad, NFL front offices, they don't want to deal with it. There's no team that wanted this circus that would have obviously come out with Sanders, especially the Browns now have the circus. They bought it. They're going to have to deal with the first couple times their quarterbacks stink. And why isn't Shedeur Sanders playing? They're going to go over to Shedeur Sanders' locker and they're going to go, why aren't you playing? And he's probably going to do what Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders, his dad, who acted as his agent, by the way. This is another layer nobody's talking about. I like Deion. I don't like what's going on at Colorado and in college football. But Deion loves football. He's good for football. He's good for kids. I'll say that. I think he is good for kids because he's not going to lie to them. He's going to tell them the honest truth. And he's also going to try to get the best out of you. He's going to get the best. But there's all the pomp and circumstance with the fact that this is his son, who he retired his number, really. And I mean, look, Cordell Stewart doesn't even have his number retired at Colorado. That's the negative side of Deion, but I digress. But his Shedeur Sanders being so entitled, being beyond reproach, and the posse and everything, you know what we don't need? Said the NFL executives. I mean, to me, it looked a lot like Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football. Ooh, Johnny Football back in the day. That proved to be a circus, and he was a circus monkey. Um, I don't think teams wanted to repeat watching a Johnny Manziel situation. And look, I think Sanders could be as bad as Manziel in that regard, that he could be more circus freak than athletic freak. I could be totally wrong. he was really gifted athletically in the college game. He makes plays. He can make all the throws. He's got a bit of magic. One thing that Kuiper did say that's true is the NFL also has no real sense of evaluating quarterback talent. He pointed out Boomer Esiason falling in the second round back in 1984. He brought up Patrick Mahomes just 7 seasons ago was drafted well down into the draft. And the problem here is, you know what the difference is between those guys turning out to be damn good NFL quarterbacks and being Johnny Manziel or Mitch Trubisky or whatever is good coaches. Sam Wyche made Boomer Esiason a damn good quarterback. Bruce Coslett made him a damn good quarterback. And you have to look at Wilford Brimley. I mean, seriously, the Chiefs coach could make any quarterback pretty damn good. And he's jived with Mahomes. Mahomes is a special talent. But what if Mahomes had gone to a dysfunctional team like the Browns? He probably wouldn't be with the Browns anymore. I think great coaching is the difference with these quarterbacks. Deion Sanders was really good. Let my boy go out there and make plays. And he was good in college. Do we really think Kevin Stefanski can make Shadur Sanders good? And the answer is no. There's no way. Anyway, I digress. That's all I have to say about that. But an amazing 14 players from the Ohio State Buckeyes drafted, including some high-profile players, I think can make an immediate impact. Let's talk about our Buckeyes going to the NFL. Wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, the first one off the board. He goes to the Bucks. Look, the Bucks had injuries at the wide receiver spot last year. I think he's immediately going to make an impact as a slot receiver. He's going to be one of Baker Mayfield's favorite. He runs good routes. If they can get on the same page, boy, the Buccaneers, they're that fly in the ointment down there. There's no real good team in the NFC South. Let's be honest. The Bucks should be that team. The offensive tackles, Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons. Jackson goes to the Vikings where he'll likely start. He'll probably be on the inside. He's going to be protecting some miserable former Michigan quarterback. I don't even know who that guy's name is. But anyway, say Josh Simmons, he gets to go to the Chiefs. Look, the Chiefs had all sorts of troubles on that offensive line late in the season last year. They got worn out by the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Case in point, we need to go get an offensive tackle. Whether or not Simmons plays inside, outside, I think the fact that they beefed up and they trusted him is something important. Look, a couple different teams, including the Arizona Cardinals, took a couple different Buckeyes, and they said that we like the fact that the Buckeyes players have good work ethic. They come in, they know what to do, they know how to get it done. Running back Quinshon Judkins, he'll get snaps for the Browns. I think he's kind of a grinder for them. They struggled to run the ball last year. They dropped to 29th in the league despite the talent that they had. There are injuries up front and to the running back spot. He can only help, right? Running back Trevion Henderson is a home run for the Patriots. They took him in the second round. Look, the Pats got pieces and parts to try to help the quarterback Drake May, as I mentioned. Henderson can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a home run hitter with his speed, but something that got lost in the minutia, which I think is something that teams saw, and I read repeatedly, is he might be the best pass blocker from the running back spot in forever, and he can help. I think he might wind up being a really good pick for the Patriots. The edge rusher Jack Sawyer, as I mentioned, and Will Howard. I unfortunately go to the Steelers. I feel very happy for Will Howard. I think maybe he exonerated himself a little bit. He had a bad showing at the NFL Combine, but this kid, I think that again, good coaching could make the difference. I mean, look at his jump from Kansas State, where he was a good quarterback who ran first, to I don't think he gets enough credit for being really damn good with the Buckeyes and what he was able to achieve with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. So there you have it. Bunch of other Buckeyes players I could go on and on, but you don't need to hear about that. But that was my draft rewind. Again, I got a couple things to close with, but I want to remind you this is a big week for us at Zimco Entertainment, Zimco Sports. Not one, but two Kentucky Derby parties. I'd love to go on about the Derby and talk about the horses, but I'm going to save that for another post. Maybe my buddy, the Husky fella, Brian Barrett, will join me towards the end of the week. Maybe we'll make a quick video cast about our picks for the Derby. We would love for you to come out and participate and have fun with us on Saturday. Those parties 4 to 8. as we mentioned. We'd also love to have the podcast back. At least I know I do, but we cannot figure out how to make it go. He has been a little hesitant to do anything with video, and that also takes somebody filming it for us or figuring out how to do that and make the sound go on that. But we cannot get any help with this, and I don't know how to do sound. I don't know how to do these things on the computer. I'm wondering if there's a program, don't just throw suggestions. Well, get this and get that. Give me a call and say, hey, can I come over and help you? I would love for somebody to please help us because look, we can't get the sound right. We've tried old mics, new mics, whatever else, and it's terrible. Brian has a little bit of a monotone voice, but there should be a way to raise his up. And we love doing the pod. I've really missed it. I'll be honest with you. We've been busy. That's been our excuse. But until I can get the sound right, we're just not going to do it. Let me close with these three things. ESPN's beloved game day, the colorful force that is Lee Corso, will retire after one more show on August 30th. Corso, who will be 90 by the time this happens, has been with Game Day since the beginning, 38 years ago, 1987. They started in a studio with Tim Brendo and some other great people. And over the years, it morphed into the big thing that it was. And he's been really the lone reason to watch over the last few years. ESPN's production of this has increasingly become unwatchable. Um, it's just screamy talking heads. It's silliness. The good people that they've had have moved on to better jobs. But his donning the headgear since the early 90s has been one of the highlights of my week each week during the college football season. Of course, he put on Brutus first. Um, I'm going to miss, it's been a lot of fun. I'm going to miss Lee Corso and the idea of Lee Corso. The last couple of years has been very hard to watch. He had a stroke several years ago, and the man's 90 or 89. It's been tougher and tougher for him to put on the television product versus what he used to do. So you got to go back and look at the video if you're the casual fan and Lee Corso highlights over the years, and he was amazing. He was fun to watch over these years. He's been such a peach. Thanks, Coach. Thank you for all the fun years. The other thing that I think went unnoticed a little bit is that we lost a great broadcaster recently, and it kind of went way under the radar, especially from ESPN. Growing up, ESPN is something that I just loved, and I wanted to be on ESPN. And then sometime in the 2000s, it started to turn for the worse. It became a Disney product and the worst of sports. It's become unwatchable. I don't watch it. Scott Van Pelt show, I'll watch. You have to watch it for college and some pro sports, but honestly, I I would prefer not to if I could not. One of the reasons I watched all those years, though, was Mike Patrick, who passed away at the age of 80 last week, was with ESPN for decades, and he did college football, he did college hoops, he did college baseball, the college World Series. He was their main play-by-play for the NFL when ESPN had the Sunday night football package, along with Joe Theismann and Al McGuire. It was a fun broadcast. It seemed like they really enjoyed one another's company and it was a really good product even before it jumped to NBC and became the marquee game of the week. They had a lot of dogs that they had to do back in the day until the NFL goes, wait a minute, that's actually a pretty good time slot for us to take over and put games on. Patrick was pro's pro. He was excitable, but not over the top. He wasn't like so many of these screamy, over pumped guys like they are now. Very enjoyable, very relevant for a guy that had been long in the tooth. He knew his insides in pop culture, and I don't think he gets enough credit for being really damn good for a really good long time. Rest in peace, Mike Patrick. And on a final note, quick personal shout out to my dear cousin Janet, who lost her husband Louis this past week. Louis was a fan of our podcast and our videos and listened to us rant and rave, mostly in the negative, towards his beloved Michigan Wolverines. He was one of the good Wolverine fans. He proposed to my Ohio State graduate cousin Janet at the Big House. So she could never hate that place, so he said. He played college baseball for the Central Michigan Chippewas. He was a big fan of Detroit sports teams, especially the Tigers and Lions. He could talk about it all day. He was an avid golfer. He was a really nice gentleman. I liked the brief time that we had to share over the years, which usually was just in a quick trip or at a ball game or something like that when they came to Florida or if I went up there. We shared a nice bourbon last November and we toasted and he cheered to my Buckeyes and wished them good luck and meant it. Farewell and rest in peace, Louis. Very sad for our family. Best wishes to my cousin out there. I do appreciate all that love that you might get, or if you're a praying person, maybe put that out there in the ether for her. Ladies, gents, boys, and girls, that is my video for now. Hopefully, again, you'll join us this weekend for the Kentucky Derby. And one of our parties, Swamp Cat Brewing, 4 to 8, Cape Cabaret and Cape Coral with myself at 4 to 8 as well. We hope to see you soon. Also, at all our trivia venues, we're into Trivia League at Celtic Ray and the Fort Myers Brewing Company. Make sure to join us each and every week. I didn't notice the lighting had changed, so weird, funky lighting on me. So, anyhow, hopefully you're having a great week, and we'll see you at trivia.